Toll free 1-800-563-7770. Call or text 403-974-8255. Danielle Smith on 770 CHQR.
Brought to you by the Popowich Carmeli Advisory Group, CIBC Wood Gundy.
All right, welcome back. Well, I have Maxime Bernier, founder and leader of the People's Party of Canada, in studio. You can watch this on Facebook Live if you want to go online there, where we'll wave at you. And you can also ask questions to me, 403-974-8255. I want to get right to it so that I don't miss out on any of the questions that you want to ask. First question to ask is, where is the event tonight? It's at the Metropolitan Centre on 4th Avenue. I understand that you got full registration, 550 capacity, but you got full registration within 72 hours. Can people still go down?
Yes, they can. We still have some room, and I'm very happy that people are ready to come and they want to listen to us about our platform and what we must do for a freer and a more prosperous country. So I'll be pleased to answer questions and speaking with people from Calgary and Alberta.
Aren't you worried that Antifa is going to show up and shut you down? It sounds like you've been declined at Mohawk College to rent a space on September 29th. I was really looking forward to this because Dave Rubin is one of my favorite YouTube personalities. I mean, he's a centrist. He's a Democrat in the U.S. He's a gay man, and he just stands on the issue of free speech. But the anti-racist, anti-fascist action groups, I guess, have shut you down.
But no, first of all, the event will take place. I spoke with Dave, and we are looking forward to do that event. And these people are crazy. They are saying that Dave Rubin, that he is a Nazi. He's a Jewish guy, and it's so disappointed that you have people like that in Canada. There's free speech in our country, and we just want to have a debate about different subjects that are important for the future of this country. So we will be there, me and Dave, and the event will take place.
Was it going to be at Mohawk College or somewhere else?
At the same place. They asked us, actually, they're going to charge us $4,000 for security. And we'll pay that because it's so important to have this event.
What is the issue in Canada about free speech? What do you think is going on? Why is it that there are groups that are trying to shut down discussion? Because I'm going to, now that people know where you are, I would almost fully expect that you'd have a bunch turning up tonight.
But it's sad that as a political party, we must have a policy on free speech. We're in Canada. It's a free democracy. We have freedom of expression, free speech. It is a part of us and our constitution. But as a political leader, I need to have a policy on free speech in 2019 in this country. So we must not take for granted our freedom, and that's important.
Okay, so you've got a couple of things that are very controversial that people want to shut you down on. Let's talk about climate change.
Yeah.
I think you might be the only party that doesn't have a position on climate change or reducing greenhouse gases. Is it to come? Am I summarizing that wrong, or is that accurate?
No, we have a position. The position is we'll let provinces do what they want to do. For example, the carbon tax that Justin Trudeau is imposing right now won't apply in Quebec because Quebec, at the provincial level, they have a cap and trade system. And we know that the environment, it is a shared jurisdiction with provinces. So, but it will let provinces deal with that. And at the federal level, yes, you're right. We won't sign the Paris Accord. We won't do anything on climate change. But we'll do something for the environment. We have a policy that is very strong on the environment to be sure that we have clear lake, clear rivers, clear land. And we're in 2019. So, what happened in Montreal with the city of Montreal when there were their sewage in the St. Lawrence River? We can fix that. And same thing also in BC. They're doing the same thing in Vancouver. So let's have policies that are concrete for the environment. That's our position.
Well, you've got Greta Thunberg, who is going to be in Montreal on September 27th. You kind of picked a fight with her, and people dogpiled on you on the internet. I mentioned her in my column, and I got dogpiled on too. But why did you think it was important to challenge what she's putting out there?
But it's important because, she said, and I quote her, I want you to panic. I want you to feel my fears. And sorry about that, but you cannot base public policies on sentiment, on panic, on fear. You must base public policies on reason, on facts. And the radical leftists and radical environmentalists don't want us to have a discussion about climate change, and we want to have a discussion. They want they are saying that it's so important and there's an emergency that we must act right now. And what they want us to do is to change our way of life in this country. They want to shut down the oil and gas industry. No, sorry about that, but I don't buy that. There's no climate emergency.
Someone finally sent me the first article that Greta Thunberg tweeted out, and it was a February 19th, 2018 column on an alt website called gritpost.com. Top climate scientist says humans will go extinct if we don't fix climate change by 2023. So we're down to 4 years now. Otherwise, we're going to go extinct. That seems like a pretty serious issue.
Oh my God, yes, it's so serious. We must act. I don't understand why we must shut down the oil industry right now, today.
What do you make of headlines like this? And what do you this is guiding the discussion, right?
Seriously, it is helping us. Canadian understand that there's no emergency. When Elizabeth May, she was in Winnipeg and they had a hard rain over there, and she tweeted, because of climate change, we must do something. It's raining in Winnipeg. There's the climate and there's the weather. So she's mixing everything. And she said, if you don't vote for us before the election, that would be the end of the world. She tweeted about that. So the more they're like that, the better it is for me. Canadians understand that there's no crisis, and we have a reasonable position on that. We want to have more study about climate change. All the study right now are on the effect of CO2 on climate. But why not studying the effect of the sun on climate, the effect of the oceans of climate, the effects of volcanoes on climate? So let's have more study about that, and we can take our time before acting. And we know that Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer, they're lying to the population when they're saying that they will achieve the Paris Accord targets with their environmental plan. They won't. You need to impose a carbon tax of at least $300 a ton to be sure to achieve the Paris Accord target. And the Liberals are imposing a carbon tax of $50 a ton.
They've now finally switched gears. And this is something that I've been waiting to see, because every other industrialized country is going in this direction, talking about net zero targets. I mean, India is being lauded as an achiever of their Paris Accord targets because they've planted more trees. They're importing new technologies. They're switching out of coal, not to a large extent. But if these are the kind of things that allow us to get credit, if we can export our LNG to China and get them to reduce the amount of coal, why not do that? If we can plant more trees, or if we can sequester carbon in soil, why not do that? It seems like the net zero target by 2050 is pretty achievable.
Absolutely. You need to believe in the private sector. That's not a bureaucrat in Ottawa that invented the electric car. That's coming from the private sector. We believe in freedom, in free enterprise, and humanity will find a solution for that. But we don't have to panic about it. That's our position on that.
Okay, Elizabeth May wants to shut down the oil sands between 2030 and 2035. What's your position on the oil sands?
I want them to be prosperous. I want to be sure that the other countries will be able to buy our oil and gas, and I want to be sure that the oil and gas industry will be prosperous. And I'm not only the oil and gas industry, but every industry in this country. Around the world, the demand for oil is increasing right now. So let's be there, and Canada can be a big supplier for other countries, and that's why I want to be sure that we're able to build pipelines in this country. That's another important debate.
How are you going to convince Quebecers of that? I always find it so amazing that you have so much in common in your ideas with what I hear from my listeners, but I don't know that makes you electable in Quebec.
I was elected by 60% of the votes at the last election. I'm saying the same thing in French. But speaking about pipelines, the Quebec government is not listening to the population, is listening to the radical leftists. When Legault said that there's no social acceptability for pipelines in Quebec, when he said that we don't want your dirty oil, that's not the position of the population. We had the huge tragedy in Lac Mégantic 6 years ago, and Quebecers know that it's safer to transport oil and gas by pipelines than by train or trucks. And they know it's safer for the environment, but also for the population. And actually, we have pipeline in the ground in Quebec. All the gas that is going from the port of Montreal to the Trudeau Airport, it is by pipelines. So we just have to speak about that. And the more we speak, the more we have support in Quebec.
Okay, let's talk about other areas that have caused you some controversy. There is a candidate that had some intolerant tweets. I want to ask you about him and what you do about candidates like this. That being said, he didn't dress up in blackface 3 times, so there is a new bar in politics for firing, but I want to understand what you think this might be doing to the People's Party brand, and we'll talk about immigration too when we get back on 770 CHQR. All right, guys, bear with me because this happened to me before. You end up with candidates who make intolerant statements. You got to make a choice. Do you stand beside them or do you let them take down the entire ship, right? So Bill Capes is the People's Party candidate in Essex. And here are 2 tweets that got dug up. Number 1, yellow people have been working since 5 a.m. Black people up at noon, LOL. This was on March 22nd, 2019, so only a few months ago. Another one saying, I will be the proud white dude hiding in plain sight in a hijab, thinking everyone should wear one. Might be a good look for black flies too. And a third one in March, hey, Kelly, I can't wrap my head around the whole gender thing. Either stand up or sit where I come from. Hey, maybe it's me gender confused because I don't get it. Binary, non-binary, geez, Mother Nature will rule on it eventually. Be sure of that. So he's just hit all of the racial and gender hot buttons here. His response is, I apologize for any remarks that I made that were taken out of context and may have offended anyone. Those are pretty offensive and they're pretty recent. So what do you do about that, Mr. Bernier?
Yes, I just want to go back of what we did when we chose our candidate. We did a background check on everybody. We look at their social media. We asked them also to sign a pledge that they won't embarrass the party, and also that they believe in our values, in tolerance and pluralism. And so he did that like all our other candidates. Yes, it was a big mistake. It was a huge one. What I can tell you is I'm going to read what he said after that. I made a mistake and I'm sorry. If politicians are to be held to a perfect standard, I'm happy to resign right after Justin Trudeau. So I'm not asking for his resignation. My team had a discussion with him, and so we're going to go on. He's 100% with our policies, and you know that's what happened when you have new people that are in politics. I said that in the beginning. Our candidates in a debate can do some mistake and can say something that they don't believe in the end. But the most important is they must be responsible for their action, and I think he acts as a responsible one. He told me that he's ready to resign, but because he's 100% on board with our philosophy and our principles, he will be a candidate. One
of the things that I think allowed Justin Trudeau to get away with this blackface, brownface debacle he created for himself is that he's spent so much time with cultural communities and people don't believe he's a racist. I think in this case, people will think that your party attracts racists because you have a policy to restrict immigration. Is this kind of indicative of the kind of candidate you've attracted?
No, I want to go back in the history. A couple of years ago, here out west, they created the Reform Party. And if you look at our platform, 90% of our platform, it's in line with the Reform Party at that time, the Blue Book. In the beginning, they were saying that Preston Manning is a racist. They were saying that to the Reform Party in the beginning. Preston Manning is not a racist, was not a racist, but people were saying that to the Reform. And you can speak with the old reformers that created the Reform Party in the beginning. And so that happened to us. And maybe because we are not afraid to speak about the real issues for this country, pipelines, equalization, and yes, immigration. But if you look at our platform and what we believe, I don't have to justify myself that I'm not a racist and that our party is not a racist. I won't go there. Just have to read our policies. And they know Maxime Bernier. I'm not new in politics. The last 30 years, I was a minister under the upper government, and I created a party based on principle, individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And people who are saying that are not serious.
What about him mocking the transgender community? I think that's very alienating for anyone who's in the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely. I did a mistake, and he said that he won't do that again, and that's what that was not very intelligent from him to do that. So, we are preaching for personal responsibility. So he is responsible, and he said that he did a mistake, and let's go on.
Okay, we talked a lot about immigration last time you were in. So so we'll see if any of our listeners have any more to say on that. If so, I will ask the question, but a lot of people are asking this question. It says, I'd love to vote for Max, but I can't bear to because it would take a vote away from the Conservatives and it may give the buffoon, this is their word, in Ottawa a better chance. Just can't do that. There's that. And a number of other people are asking, well, if you do win enough seats to form a coalition, will you form a coalition with Andrew Scheer?
Okay, the first question is, I don't believe, and I think, Danielle, you agree with me, I don't believe that Justin Trudeau will be able to elect one Liberal candidate here in Alberta.
I think that's probably fair to say.
So if you vote for us, that won't help Justin Trudeau in Alberta here. So if you vote for us, you will vote for your values. You will vote for what you believe in. You will vote for a real political party with a leader that wants to help you and Albertans and our country. A political leader that know that you are frustrated with what happened in Ottawa because you are paying equalization and nobody wants to speak about that, and pipelines. So that's very important for you. And I'm not speaking about equalization and pipeline here in Alberta because it is popular. I did speak, and I will always speak about it in Quebec in French. In New Brunswick, I did speak about pipelines and equalization. And I said we must be less generous. I'm the only one. So I'm asking you, vote for your values, vote for what you believe in, and you won't have any Liberal candidates that will be elected.
Okay, and the 5 ridings where you have a chance, if you do end up succeeding in all 5 of those ridings and you're forming the balance of power, will you form a coalition with Andrew Scheer?
No.
You'd form a coalition with Justin Trudeau before Andrew Scheer?
No coalition. We won't be part in a coalition government. We will work with the minority government, and if we have the balance of power, and I think you're right, we can have the balance of power. Look what happened in BC. The NDP over there, they are the government in BC, but 3 Greens control the government. We can have more than 3 candidates that will be elected. I can tell you that. So if we have the balance of power, we will work with the minority government, but without doing any compromise with our principle. The minority government will have to come to us. They will have to do some compromise, and we will judge the government policy by policy, legislation by legislation.
Okay, I had Stephen Buffalo from the Indian Resource Council call yesterday, and he said, where is there a candidate that would abolish the Indian Act? And I looked at your policy, and sure enough, it looks like you'd abolish the Indian Act.
Yes, we just issue our policy for First Nation, but it's easy to say that, and I'm honest with you. That's our goal, but we need to replace that by something else. So yes, it's our end goal to abolish the Indian Act, but also to be sure that we'll have a kind of a property rights on reserve, and we need to. We have a top-down decisional process in Ottawa. Ottawa decide everything for the First Nation and the reserve. We need to change that. We need to give them more autonomy, but at the same time, I won't go to the and approve the UN on Aboriginal. What is the name of the UN?
Indigenous rights.
That's it.
Yeah,
we must be able to have economic development on reserve and in Canada, and that's important also.
Let me ask you one more question. There's a lot of policies that you don't have. You're not going around saying you're going to throw money at childcare. You're not throwing money at healthcare. You're not throwing money at affordable housing. Why not?
Why not? Because we're doing politics differently. Because the most important for us is to balance the budget, and we are saying people how we will balance the budget, and we will save money on the CBC, on the foreign aids, on corporate welfare. We'll be able to balance the budget in 2 years, and after that, that's important because we want to keep our social program. And right now we are paying $26 billion only on the interest on the debt. We must stop that. But the most important is, if I'm not speaking about other policies, it's because it is a statu quo. We won't change what we are speaking about, bold changes. If we don't have a policy on that, it's because it would be the statu quo for us.
All right. That was Maxime Bernier. Maxime Bernier, thank you so much for being with me today.
It was too short. Thank you very much.
I know. As the founder and leader of the People's Party of Canada, even though there's huge demand to see him tonight at the Metropolitan Centre, which is on 4th Avenue, you can still go down and they will try to accommodate you. You got people coming and going, so you might still be able to meet him. What time is it this evening?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, Metropolitan Centre. Let's take a pause. We'll be right back on 770 CHQR.